A warm welcome to Eye in Africa. I'm Rochelle Ferguson-Biahi. These are the top stories on the continent. The UN sounds the alarm over the number of displaced South Sudanese people. The agency estimates that 1.5 million people have fled to neighbouring countries, this amid ongoing unrest in the world's newest nation. Somalia's new leader gets to grips with the challenges of his new job. President Farmajo's appointment has generated high hopes, but are those expectations realistic? Well, our correspondent Duncan Woodside reports from Mogadishu. And we head to DR Congo for the third edition of the Amani festival, which kicks off this Friday. Amani means peace, and that's precisely what the festival's promoting. But first, the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees has warned the number of displaced people in South Sudan has reached an alarming level. UNHCR estimates that 1.5 million people have fled to neighbouring countries, with Uganda the top destination, followed by Ethiopia, Sudan, Kenya and DR Congo. A further 2 million people have been displaced within South Sudan itself. To tell us more, Baba Balouche is from the UNHCR. He joins us on the line now from Geneva. Mr. Balouche, South Sudan is currently Africa's biggest refugee crisis, yet people don't seem to be paying much attention.
Exactly, and that's one of our worries as the UN Refugee Agency, because it has been receiving low level of attention, but also low level of resources as well in terms of funding. I mean, you mentioned the countries, Uganda, Ethiopia, and other countries in the neighborhood, which have been keeping their doors open, and most of the poorest communities and regions have been trying to help these refugees, but international help has been really slow. I mean, just to sort of have a look in terms of the numbers, the pace of displacement since last year's July, the month of July, has been really alarming. We reached 1 million mark in September 2016, and in last 4 months, there have been 500,000 more refugees from South Sudan, forced to flee their homes every day. It's quite alarming.
This large number, as you say, it's an enormous amount of people who are forced to flee. That must be putting an enormous strain on countries which, let's be honest, are struggling themselves.
Exactly. I mean, most remotest parts in the world, in those countries as well. We are talking about northern parts of Uganda, Sudan, Ethiopia, DRC, Central African Republic. These are quite poor communities as well, but they have big hearts. They are leading by example for this 1.5 million refugees that have arrived in their countries or communities since 2013. So they have opened, the countries have opened their borders open, but what needs is support for these poor communities, because those who are arriving, they're quite in desperate conditions. Over 60% are children, malnourished, exhausted, and arriving in desperate situations. They need help. The world has to wake up that now South Sudan is the world's third largest refugee crisis.
Okay, Mr. Balouche from the UNHCR, thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Somalia's new president, Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo, is getting to grips with the challenges that lie ahead after being sworn in this week. It was a shock victory, but Farmajo is very popular. His reformist credentials renewing hope for many Somalis. But as our correspondent Duncan Woodside's been finding out on the ground, some sky-high expectations may need to be reined in.
People here are still pinching themselves. They have the president they want, Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo, a man who transcends clan loyalties.
Even 4-year-old children are chanting the name of Farmajo. Even though he's not from my clan, I still love him.
While happy that change is in the air, soldiers are frustrated. They've been going without their salaries for months now.
We haven't been paid for 9 months, but we hope that this government will give us our salaries and our rights. I have a family, I have children, and I want to live on what I'm paid.
This hope might not be entirely misplaced. The new president threw his weight around during a brief spell as prime minister in 2010 to 2011.
When President Muhammad Abdullahi was prime minister, all soldiers were being in time.
But there are signs that state coffers may be empty. Abdi is a senior manager in Somalia's civil aviation department, a government branch that generates a lot of income through issuing visas and charging embarkation fees.
We were collecting $3 million a month, but it was all embezzled for political corruption.
Somalia's new president, of course, faces many, many challenges, but perhaps two stand out above all others. Firstly, he'll be working against a system where there is entrenched corruption and people benefit from that corruption. And secondly, there are obviously many people here who have very high expectations, and there is a big risk that those expectations could be disappointed.
In DR Congo, the opposition claims the military has killed over 50 members of the Kamwina-Napsu who were seeking to avenge the death of their leader. Well, clashes reportedly erupted this morning in the Kasai Central province when the militia attacked an army post. In recent months, hundreds have died and thousands have been uprooted amid ongoing battles between security forces and the militia group. Well, to bring us the very latest, our correspondent Thomas Nicolan is in Kinshasa. We can cross live to him. Thomas, talk us through the latest that we know regarding this attack.
Well, it is very difficult to know exactly what's going on in that region since the government has not released official records and death tolls of what has been going on. But on Friday morning, there was an attack, and it has been the case almost every Friday since August 2016, because Kamwina Nsapu was killed on a Friday in August 2016, and since then his militiamen have been attacking military posts in the villages around Kananga, and they chose to attack today too, and the military men replied with fire and apparently killed more than 50.
OK, Thomas Nicolas, for now, thanks for giving us the latest on that story. Felix Tshisekedi, son of the late opposition leader Etienne Tshisekedi, has refused to bury his father in his native DR Congo, saying the Congolese people wouldn't want him buried by the present government. Etienne Tshisekedi, a prominent opponent of President Joseph Kabila, died 10 days ago in Brussels. Speaking earlier, Felix Tshisekedi called on Kabila to put a new government in place to avoid violence. Have a listen.
We will not return the body of the president because the people don't want the current government to bury him. It would certainly lead to clashes. We would be caught between two sides, one throwing stones and the other tear gas grenades.
In Gambia, thousands of ECOWAS troops are to begin heading home after being deployed to oversee the transition of power between longtime leader Yahya Jammeh and new president Adama Barrow. The multinational force will be reduced to 500 troops from the 7,000 initially sent in when Jammeh refused to step aside. Well, soldiers from Senegal, Ghana and Nigeria will make up the smaller contingent. Their mandate's expected to last for about 3 months. Well, staying with Gambia, the EU has announced €225 million in aid. That's after President Barrow warned the country had been left virtually bankrupt by the former regime. South Africa's opposition Democratic Alliance has announced it's seeking a court ruling after President Jacob Zuma deployed armed soldiers for his State of the Nation speech. Zuma authorised over 400 soldiers to join his security team in Parliament on Thursday, a move the opposition has described as unconstitutional. Well, the president's speech was delayed by more than an hour and descended into chaos as lawmakers brawled with officials. Still in South Africa, President Zuma's popularity is rapidly declining as the country's economy is also. In areas like Limpopo province, there's been rising anger over the government's failure to improve infrastructure. Locals say roads and clinics are in desperate need of renovation. Some residents have taken to burning property to get the authorities' attention. Caroline Dumais and Stefan Carsten sent us this report.
2 schools were burnt last month in Chitale. One of them, Denga High School, lost its precious library. All the books sent by the department for this school year went up in smoke.
We cannot just count, but so many. Can you see the ashes here? It means that we were having big shelves here, full of books.
The fire broke out during the general strike. People were protesting against the government, who has been promising to tar this road for 10 years. But the budget is gone, the roadworks keep on being postponed, and development of the village made impossible. These 45 kilometers of gravel road are so bad that even buses from town get stuck.
It is raining too much, so after the rainfall, the bus came here and it failed to pass.
This road is unfortunately the only way to get to the clinic, which is indeed closed. People are striking as the security company has not paid its employees for 2 months.
They said the Department of Health has never paid them. The plan is that they will stay like this until they get paid.
Between the clinic and the road, the anger does not cease. People in the community believe that there is only one way to be heard, and that is by burning government property.
People are very angry. We couldn't control them. As a result, they burnt this place. They got what they want because they got the government attention.
Put under pressure, the government quickly promised to start building the new road from next April. But residents who experienced empty promises remain skeptical.
We cannot guarantee that people are satisfied or not satisfied until the road is done. Then we will say people are satisfied. But all in all, we were a bit ignored.
In Limpopo province, delivery protests are ongoing. About 60 schools have been affected by the damages so far.
And we end in DR Congo in the city of Goma, where the 3rd edition of the Amani festival kicked off this Friday. The aim of the 3-day event is to promote peace in the Great Lakes regions. The artists and young people performing hail from countries including DR Congo, Rwanda and Burundi. Well, the word Amani means peace in Swahili, and that's exactly what the festival goers have in mind. We leave you with these images. More Eye on Africa in about 50 minutes' time. Do join us then.